So again,
the songs you chose, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
And
He chose.
this is how it is being spirit led. You know, you and I have never spoken until I came here. We've not even had a single conversation, and literally all you had was an outline. The stuff in purple on the sheet is all she had.
We're like, here you go.
And the intentionality, like God was just showing me in the songs chosen about the different names of God and about being a friend and being a king. And those are some of the things we're going to be addressing and talking about. Darla's actually going to talk about on Sunday the different names of God, and I'm going to talk about coming into the presence of God the Father, God the King, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, and how we enter into those different relationships differently. So I was blown away. I'm sitting there as we're singing these songs, and it hit me again as I'm looking at the one we sang last night and the one we sang this morning, and I'm like, God, you are so good of how you intentionally line things up.
Yes.
So, good morning again.
It's been so long.
It's been so long. But even down to how we dressed yesterday and how we're dressed today, there's a reason. Last night you saw we took off our old garments, okay? And we put on our new garment, and that was representation of our salvation. When we all come to Jesus, we all come the same way, through Jesus Christ. We had matching outfits. But today, we're walking in our identities, which are completely different, right? I'm so different from Darla, and she's so different from me, but we're both wearing clothes. Just like Martha gave everybody a bag. They're all bags, right? But everyone was unique and beautiful and different.
And the stuff inside was different and unique. So everything that's inside is different and unique.
Yes. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right, but we need to embrace everybody's diversity, because then we have a rainbow. God created us to be a puzzle, and each puzzle piece is unique and different and fits together in a certain way. So we're going to fit together with everybody a little differently. Our relationship will be a little different, but it is going to be a God-given relationship. He doesn't give anyone the full puzzle. Nobody in this room has more than one puzzle piece, okay? You are to work together in unity, because unity is not conformity. Darla and I operate in unity of the Spirit, but we are as different as West Coast and East Coast. Big city and small town girl, okay? God is going to show you your identity. He's going to speak to you your name of hope, of faith, of what you are. And that's what we want you to embrace. You have the ability to hear the same voice of Jesus that we do. You have the ability to bring the power of God to the table, just like we. There's nothing special about her. There's nothing special about me. What we carry is the same power that you carry. So you have the ability to bring this to the people in your sphere of influence, okay? So today is Relatable Finances, and as someone who is in finance for 17 years, this is my passion. So Darla's going to be my timekeeper, and she's actually starting off, because if she doesn't, she won't get a chance to talk. So
This is very true.
it's very true, especially when it comes to finance.
Yes. See, okay, and talk about personality differences. English, writing, math. Numbers. Yeah. I don't do numbers. I was sitting at the table and I was trying to do math, just basic math, and she's like already there, got it solved, found the root, you know, number of this, and I'm just like, I just wanted simple math of this minus this, and she's already got it all.
I'm like the waitress's nightmare, because when I go, like, I have to have the even number for my bill. So I know it drives them crazy, but I can't help it, because the math in me needs to have the even number for my...
So these poor waitresses are getting tips of like $10.73.
Seriously. Please forgive me. Just understand it's my OCD. I'm so sorry if there's any waitresses in the room.
You
would drove me crazy.
I'm sorry. Don't hate me too bad. Just understand it's my OCD.
That's okay. I can relate. I'm OCD as well.
So I'm going to share, because I want to be able to speak. But I'm sharing for the finance portion more of the personal application of what she's going to share on how to do it. When my husband and I got married, we dated 8 years before he figured out he wanted to propose. He knew all those times, but I was on the time clock, and I'm like, you have till I turn a certain age, and I will just be a widow, or not a widow, but what do you call those? The cat lady. I'll be the crazy, yes, the spinster. There's the word I was looking for. I will just be a spinster if you don't get on the ball. But when we married, because we both married later in life, this is our first marriage, and we got married right before our 40s. So, yeah. So we came in to the marriage with 27 credit cards. That's not including car loans. That's not, yes. We had issues, to say the least.
But she's the normalcy even in the Christian church. So I know everybody's taking a deep breath in, and maybe y'all have it together, but I've been doing financial counseling for 17 years.
And I found out I was normal, so it made me feel really good.
This is the normalcy.
Oh my
Most
gosh.
people hide it really well. Most people hide it really well.
And we did. We, when we sat down to decide we were getting married, we had our marriage counseling and brought that to the table, and we looked at each other, and I realized I wasn't alone, and he realized he wasn't alone, but we realized we had a problem. And what do you do when you have a problem? You have two choices. Sweep it under the rug and just keep living the life that you're living and never have freedom. Or you lean on a sister and say, help a sister out. I need help. And I did it with the permission of my husband to expose our finances, because you don't just share all that with just anybody. But I found a safe place, and I said, help. And so she put us on a budget. Well, she suggested, here's things you should do. And so I took it home, and I said, okay, honey, here's what we need to do. And for the first year, it was rocky, because not only were we getting used to living with each other and being married and the mother-in-law, but then we also were trying to figure out finances and living life on a budget, because we had 27 credit cards, so we just did whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, no matter what it took. And so finding out that life needs to rein you in, and that there's responsibilities, and we're adulting now, that was what we did. So by the time we had been married a year, we were down to 13 credit cards. In 1 year's time, we had paid off, closed our cars and credit cards. Oh, I was like, I don't know what's going on over here.
She's doing a happy dance.
So that was happy. But that was in the first year. We are now coming up on our 3rd year anniversary, so as our 2nd year is coming to an end, we are down to, I wanted to say 7, but I brought one with this weekend just because I thought I need a just-in-case card. And she knows I'm a just-in-case packer. So we're down to 7 credit cards. So in a matter of 2 years, 20 credit cards, wow. 2 cars paid off, and we bought a house in the Bay Area. Awesome. So when she tells you things, I'm here to tell you it's hard, and it takes discipline, and it takes walking through the aisles of Costco and saying no.
Help me, Jesus.
And just not even wandering near the book aisle. And just not even going near the seasonal stuff, because if I get another bucket of Christmas, I will be shot. I love decorating, and I have more bins for Christmas than probably the Hallmark Channel. But it's taking self-control. And so when she tells you these things work, I'm here to show you they work. And my husband and I still have my fun, trendy clothes, because that's what I enjoy. But I've created, and you'll understand this phrase, I created a bucket for that. And my husband has guitars all along the wall, but he has a bucket for that. You plan for what you want. You budget for what you want. You may not get it right away, and as of the now generation, when you're in the drive-thru and it's been 2 minutes, and heaven forbid, I'm still behind a car. What did they order that I can't get my cheeseburger? But that's the generation and how we've become, because we want everything right now. I want my smartphone. But life, you have to learn to plan, to budget, and to use self-control, which is a fruit of the Spirit. So when she tells you these things, I'm telling you, listen. Because if I can in 2 years buy a house in the Bay Area, y'all can be just fine. And because I saw the prices of houses here, and I'm seriously thinking about moving, but y'all got snow.
And that is like a 4-letter word to her.
It so is. So, but I just wanted to share that it works. And
You were going to tell that one story, the conflict.
oh, so yeah, in the process of getting our finances in order, I am the bookkeeper because he works full time and I stay home with mom. So I do the spreadsheets, and I've learned how to make spreadsheets savvy and sexy.
Spreadsheets are sexy.
And so I've learned they are. So in that process, when my husband comes to me and says, can I go get this, or can we do this, or hey, I want to go see this movie that's out, do we have money for that? I look at our buckets, and if the bucket's empty, I have to say, no, we're not going to go to that movie this weekend.
Right.
But there's money in the account. There's money in this account, but this bucket is empty. So that's a no. And having the conflict and having those hard conversations in a marriage, what man wants some woman to tell him no? What woman wants another woman to tell her no? I'm an adult. I can do what I want. I'm the one working. I'm the one providing for this. He never said these, but that's what men can do. I'm the one working.
Women do that too.
Right.
Sure.
I'm the one who's the breadwinner in this house. So if I want to go to a movie, I'm going to a movie. If I want to buy that, I'm going to buy it. Well, that's fine, but there's a consequence to that decision. Right. And so my husband and I had to have some serious heart-to-hearts on, when can I tell you no? Because you want us to be financially secure, but you want to live this life, so what's going to give?
And we're going to address this later because we're going to talk about conflict resolution. There's so many marriages that fall apart. It's almost 50% of the divorces are based on financial issues, okay? And it's because either there's a blow up, they sweep and blow up, or they just are blowing up all the time, or they don't talk about it because they want to be generous and I'm not going to deprive, and then their marriage is disintegrated. Conflict in and of itself is not a bad thing, okay? You have to learn to put your knives and scissors away. Because if we take this carpet right here and I take scissors to it, is it ever going to be the same even if I stitch it back together? It'll never be the same. But I can navigate this without my knives and scissors and not destroy the carpet. Does that make sense? So you have to work on, how do I have healthy conflict? Actually, we talked about this. When we were talking about the clothes, we came here and there was a conversation that was had that made her start to second think, and then we had to have a conflict of conversation of, wait, my expectation was this and your expectation was this, and how do we navigate that conversation with respect to each person being an individual, and how do we handle that? Is that a bad thing? Lesser relationships would disintegrate in that conversation, okay? Because they don't know how to do it and they're chasing happiness. So if you guys are chasing happiness, or you know people that are chasing happiness, you need to just blow up the happiness tower because it's a lie. We have an excellent friendship, we have an excellent relationship, and we do conflict well. And when we have an issue, we make sure we navigate it with respect to the other person, and we keep it about the core issue. Like her and her husband, the core issue was the finances. But how many people then take that conversation and they change it into, you're this and you're this and roar!
Because somebody's trying to be controlling.
Right.
I want control, so it's going to go my way.
Right.
I'm the one running the books. I don't care that you're the one working. I'm the one running the books, and I'm telling you no. I could easily have that attitude and take control and be like, well, while you're sleeping, I'm going to go in your wallet and cut all your cards. So what is that going to do? Nothing. And I never have done that. I'm just using examples.
And they both are, and I want to make sure I clarify this. They're both involved in the finances, because when I do financial counseling, I expect both parties to know what's going on in the finances.
Absolutely.
She's just running the books. So he's not coming to her because she's running the show. He's coming to her because she's the one in charge of the books.
I know.
So I wanted to make sure I clarified that.
During pay, so we have it. So our routine, just he gets paid every other week. So the Wednesday before his paycheck comes in, we know, because I can look at his paycheck the Wednesday before, and I say, okay, here's how much you're going to get on Friday. So we sit down and we fill our buckets.
Right.
And I say, okay, out of this amount that you got, this is how much is bills and all the other, and she'll explain. Now, when we go to Costco or when we go to Albertsons or when we go grocery shopping, here's how much our grocery budget is. And that includes going out to dinner if we want to go out to dinner one night, because that's a meal. It's not a special, that's not, oh, well, that's not coming out of here, that comes out of, no. Any food comes out of the food bucket.
And do you see how she went from zero communication to absolute communication? Because conflict is not in and of itself a bad thing. Conflict is an investment in the relationship that says, I love you enough to work through this issue with you. You're worth it.
Yep.
You're worth working through this issue, because when people aren't willing to walk through a conflict with you, what they're saying is, you're not worth the conflict. You're not worth my time. You're not worth it.
You're not worth the effort.
You're not worth the effort. So start realizing when you have a conflict and you avoid it, you're telling that person they're not worth your time. Invest in the conflict. Okay, let's move to finances.
Yes.
Yay! So, I am all about relatable finances. My mom was born and raised in Italy, so there was no running water, there was no electricity, no flush toilets, a well in the center of town, you had to carry buckets. Literally, that's my mom's life. And she comes here to America and she meets my dad at school at age 16, and they get married. And my dad is one of 5 children. So my grandma and my grandpa ran their house like a military house, rations and everything. So, I mean, good people, but when you have 5 children and you only have 1 income, that's the way that ball bounces. So for me, the way I was raised by my mom's very frugal Italian lifestyle and my dad's very frugal style from his parents with the military kind of training, I was just birthed into this. So to me, finances like this is like breathing. And I started counseling people, and about 20 years goes by and I get married to my now husband, and he had come out of a 23-year-old marriage. His wife had an affair, and the finances were a mess, and he had a plan of action. And like I said, spreadsheets are sexy. So I'm like, okay, you at least have a plan of action so we can work with this. And I went through the process of digging us out of that. But in that process, and the whole reason I told you that segment of the story is to come down to the come to Jesus moment that you and your husband had, and we call it affectionately the ramen noodle story. So I put my husband on a budget, and we're both involved in everything, and he had a budget before we got married, and he had the spreadsheets, but this is when it came real. So he comes home, he had literally worked an insane amount of hours. His paycheck was astronomical because he had worked like 30 some hours in one day, which is impossible, but he never came home for 30 some hours. He comes home and he's like, hey, I'm cooking ramen noodles. Let's go out to eat. I just worked all these hours. I have this amazing paycheck coming. Tomorrow, let's go out to eat tonight. And I said, no, it's not in the budget. The grocery budget is empty. This is what's for dinner. And it was poor man Chinese, ramen noodles with veggies.
Yeah, that's what
right? Yep. Poor man Chinese. Like, I grew up in the ghetto of Youngstown. I know how to do this, right? So he never said a word. But in that moment, that's when not robbing from tomorrow to pay for today became real. That's when the budgeting of this is the amount that goes into that bucket and this is the amount that's funded tomorrow became real, and self-control became real. He now tells everybody when we do financial coaching, he tells everybody the story of like, that was my moment. That was my moment. I had a plan, but all I was doing was accounting. I wasn't actually living a budget. I was just keeping track, and I had a plan, but I wasn't actually budgeting myself. I wasn't actually operating in self-control. So this is where he says is my brilliant idea, and it works for everybody, and it really is pretty awesome. So you should have at least 2 bank accounts. One is your bill money, and one is your play money. Now, for married couples, I also recommend you actually have 3, and I'm going to explain that. Bill money, his and hers. Your names are on everything, but this helps keep honest people honest, like a lock on a door, you know? We have a lock on that door, but really it's to keep honest people honest, because if a criminal wanted to get in here, look at these windows. I mean, they're coming in here, right? So a lock on the door is to keep honest people honest. Having your bill money in a bill account is to keep honest people honest. Because if you want to take the money, you're going to take it. So in your bill account, there's no debit card, and there are absolutely no withdrawals on that bank account. Period. The only thing that happens is your bills get paid. So if your bills total $1,000 a month, your pay is going to come in there to $1,000 a month. It is a lean, mean machine. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay? So now, what's considered a bill? Anything that you owe to anybody. Your credit cards, your utilities, your house payment, your car payment, your cell phone, any money that you owe to any entity or person, if you've borrowed money from a physical person, that is a bill. Your tithe money is a bill.
Yep.
Give to God what is God's. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Capiche? Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
I grew up on it.
And I always, when I make my budget, the tithe gets listed first.
Amen.
Okay? And yes, ma'am.
How much should tithe be
10%
of what you earn?
of your gross, not your net.
That's right.
Mhm.
And it was gross.
Gross is the total amount before they take your taxes out. So it's usually around 25 to 30% higher than your paycheck that you actually see. So it's the number before they take anything else out of it. Okay? So you make, say you make $1,000, but you actually only receive $700 in your actual paycheck, because there's taxes, there's health insurance, there's your 401k, there's everybody's cut that comes out. But your true paycheck is $1,000. You're supposed to give off of what you've actually been given, not what you're actually seeing. Okay? Now, I do understand that sometimes this is a process, and so does God. Okay? He's not this horrible, angry guy who's going to beat you for these things. There's a blessing that comes upon your life when you honor God with your tithe. Period.
Amen.
So you either can accept that blessing or reject the blessing, but God's going to get the money one way or another, because every person I've done financial counseling, when they do not give their tithe money, they bleed out in other areas. It's just right. I mean, it's just the way it is. Not that I'm not saying that she wasn't tithing.
No.
I was,
Well, and I want to. Can I?
Yes.
Can I? So, during this process, I have a tally sheet because we could not make the 10% and still not have Uncle Sam and every other Uncle Bill at our door. So I had a tally sheet of how much his paycheck that we should be tithing, and then I did a percentage off of that. until we could get back to being able to pay our full tithe. But I'm going to tell you, we tithed. And God honored the sacrifice, because even that tithe was a sacrifice when you have 27 credit cards.
Right.
And you can barely make rent and you're eating ramen every night, and a steak would have never have happened. So
Right.
I'm letting you know,
And that's
keep
okay.
that.
God honors that.
Absolutely.
He will
But-
honor that, because I will put, as long as you have, like, okay, I understand now the concept, because what does the Bible say? You are held accountable for what you know. Now that you know, you're held accountable for it. So she started on the process of, okay, I knew I was supposed to be there. That's why I've been bleeding out. That's why we have 27 credit cards, because of that. Repenting for the disobedience, asking for forgiveness, and saying, okay, God, now I'm on a plan and I'm going to honor you, and here's my commitment, here's my plan of action. Well, I mean, God's not going to punish you when you're on the track of bringing money into the storehouse.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
And I want to explain something about the storehouse. I've got a good visual for that. And since you all have snow, you understand this. So you know what a snow shovel looks like.
Yeah.
And you know what a gardening shovel looks like, right? You all hold gardening shovels. And when you tithe, this is the storehouse, this is the church. So when you take your shovel, your gardening shovel, and you put it into the storehouse, and we all have that, all of a sudden there's a good amount of dirt here, right? Even though I only put in my little shovel. But when God wants to bless you, he comes in with a snow shovel. Why? Because now there's enough to have in a snow shovel. And when he wants to bless you, he uses the snow shovel and pours out blessings. You only put in a gardening shovel, but he opened up with the snow shovel. And that's the blessings he's pouring out on you.
It'll be going to the store and getting a pair of brand new pants for $1, a dress for $2, having somebody bless you with your pots and your pans. I mean, it'll be amazing. But I want to get to the core concept, so I looked at the time, and then I looked at my notes, and I was like, okay.
But I wanted to explain tithing. I don't want to get that in.
God is, sometimes people are in church saying, well, the pastor's not done and we've been here an hour on it. Just whatever God's leading you to do.
Thank you. I have the gift of gab, so I try and rein it in sometimes. Yes, so if you're married, you should have 3 bank accounts. The bill account is a lean, mean machine. There should be no withdrawals. I know I said this, but I'm going to say it over and over and over again. Do not make a single withdrawal. If you make a withdrawal from that account, you're violating the trust with your spouse. You're violating the trust with yourself, okay? It is a lean, mean machine. Does everybody kind of understand that concept, or do I need to dig into the nitty-gritty of how to do that?
Yep.
So if you get paid twice a month, you should have $500 each paycheck going into that account. Okay? Biweekly is based on 26 pays, so you've calculated a little differently. If anyone in this room is commission-based, there is a different plan of action for attacking commission-based money. I will help you with that individually, because that usually doesn't apply to the general masses. Come to me, I can help you with that, okay? Because don't sit there and go, oh, I'm commission-based, none of this applies to me. Yes, it does. I will help you. You still have to put $500 in there every paycheck, but I'm gonna tell you how to do it and how to figure out a plan of action. Okay, now we come to everything else. Is grocery money a bill?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
No, it's not.
It is not a bill, because you can go to the rescue mission, you can go to your mom and dad's, you can go to a friend's, and you can fast. Grocery money is not a bill. It is not money that you owe to any entity, okay? Period. How about going out to eat? Is it a bill?
Yes.
No.
No.
Nope, it's
It's
a
a
luxury. All of the things that are not bills are going to be in your play money account, because if for some reason you do not have enough money, but you have enough money for your bills, those things get paid, your house still stands, you do not lose your house. My number one goal is your non-negotiables, which is your bills, which is the $1,000 a month. You need to know that you at least can bring in $1,000 a month to protect your 4 walls, period. So if you have to fast, I don't really care. Fast. Go to the food bank. You know, go eat at your friends, go eat at the neighbors, go eat at your parents, go eat at your kids, you know, because you can do that and you can suck it up. Okay? I'm not trying to be harsh, but
It's a great weight loss program.
it's, and I mean, I've done it. I've done it. You know, I went through a divorce. My ex-husband cheated on me, and we were on the brink of foreclosure and losing our home, and he just bled us out financially, and I had to dig us out of that. So I worked 2 jobs to dig us out. I had the church. I mean, God was amazing because it wasn't because I didn't know how to do it. It was because he literally would hide credit card bills and take money from the bill account and all those kind of things that made it impossible for me to manage the finances. So anyway, groceries are a negotiable item. Going out to eat is a negotiable item. Getting your hair done is negotiable. To this day, I cut my own hair. I have not been to a hairstylist in almost 20 years. Okay? Am I asking you to go to that extreme? No. But that's a choice I make because I have my priorities where they're at, and my priorities are my priorities. Your priorities are not wrong. We just need to work within them. So if you get your hair cut, you need to have a budget and a bucket planning to get your hair cut. Okay? If you get your nails done, guess what? Bucket. Your husband plays golf, guess what? A bucket. A line item, okay, that says golf. Okay? If you're doing it right now, and this is what I told her, she's like, oh, well, we can give this up. No, you won't. Make a line item and put it on there. What I do when I start somebody out with finances, for those of you that do have a good grasp on your finances, if you're helping anybody else, don't put them on a budget yourself first. Ask them, what are you spending money on? And just write, what else are you spending money on? What else are you spending money on? What else are you spending money on? And they're going to verbally vomit all this information and then start tallying it up. And then they'll be like, well, I can give up golf. I can give up getting my nails done. You won't. You're going to do it because you're going to feel deprived. So we're going to give you a bucket, and you might only get to golf once every 3 months instead of once a week, but you're still going to get to golf. You might only get your nails done once every 6 months instead of once every 6 weeks, but you're still going to get your nails done. Yep. Does that make sense? So you cannot operate on depriving people.
Ladies, it's like a diet. The minute you say, I'm giving up chocolate or I'm giving up this, how long does that honestly last?
5 minutes.
So,
And that's what that's why people fail at budgeting.
And I told her, I said, oh, I can give up my Starbucks. Oh, I can give up getting my nails done. We can totally do this. And the minute I wanted to go and get a pedicure, I was like, oh, wait a minute.
This is why Maria said
I can't do this. And so I went through my bank account with my husband sitting next to me, and we looked and we made a list of every time we're running errands. Let's just run through the drive-thru of McDonald's real quick. Yeah. Do you know, it was the saddest thing, and we made ourselves almost sick. Because do you know how many times we went to McDonald's in a month?
And you add it up and you're like,
holy cow. I was like, dude, this is half of a bill. This is half of our car payment. But you don't realize it until you sit down and you really look at every single transaction that's in. Because, you get to the point where, oh, I have money in the account, so I'm going to go do this, right? Until all of a sudden you don't have any money in your account. And you're like, oh, this bill came due.
And that is the biggest reason to not have the debit card attached, because everybody's like, oh, $2, $3.
Take it out of your wallet.
$2, $3, $2, $3.
Take it out of your wallet.
Not a big deal, but it is. It's a huge deal. So, play money. Money to just blow that has no accountability. Yup, you need it. And so does your spouse if you're married. So my husband and I have $25 a week to do whatever we want with zero accountability. And we've had it that way for 6 years. It probably won't ever change because we don't really spend money. Because that's just who we are. And figure it out. Give yourself some play money that you can blow on whatever you want. Because you need it.
And you're going to need it. I give my husband $5 a week.
And that's okay.
because he can take his lunches to work.
Right. That's where they're at right now.
That's where we are. But $5 a week, I haven't touched mine. So when I came up here, I was excited. I had an extra $50 because I didn't touch my $5 a week for 10 weeks. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
But you're also budgeting for all of the other things that are consistent. She's budgeting for pedicures. She's budgeting for, I forget what, Jason's guitars, and she's budgeting for all of those things. So they're no longer the extra money you pull from, the play money. This money has zero accountability. It's just money to do whatever you want to do with whenever, as long as you have it. Does that make sense? All right, does anybody have any questions? Because I just want to make sure I'm not like missing anything.
And
here.
I start glazing over.
Right, and I start glazing over.
I do. What if you have kids in the equation? What do you do then with the play money? I mean,
As far as what? Because that play money is yours, and the play money is your husband's.
okay.
It's
What
the
about
kids.
like diapers and wipes? What is that considered?
That is a
considered-
bucket. So you're
a
gonna.
bucket?
Okay, I understand what you're asking.
Yeah.
now.
Did you run out of diapers?
Yeah. Just
No. Paper towels. No, you run out of diapers. I am not into cloth diapers. I know that's not eco-friendly. You know how much money you spend on diapers. That bill for those toiletries, that one you can actually have that as a bill. Because for your children, that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's a necessity.
It's a necessity, okay? What I'm talking about is your actual food on the table. Like, you can cut corners.
Yeah.
You really can cut corners on food. But for childcare, if you have to pay for childcare, that's a bill. It's a non-negotiable. Your diapers, your formula, your wipes, like all that kind of stuff, you really do need to, you know how much you spend on that every month. It doesn't change. And you're not going to go to the store and say, today I'm feeling frisky, I'm going to buy 10 boxes of diapers. But you're going to go to the store and say, oh, they've got a sale on Dunkin' Donuts coffee, I'm buying 20 of them. Do you see what I mean? There's a complete difference here. You're not going to overspend on your child care toiletries. It's a bill, okay? And it needs to be taken care of first. You got to take care of your children. The Bible also says you need to take care of your house or you're worse than an unbeliever. And here is the biggest thing I find in Christian circles. We are tremendous givers, and we're also addicted to giving. We will give ourselves into the poorhouse. I know people that will literally give so much that they get their gas shut off, okay? Because they're still giving. They are so giving because they're addicted to that. And they haven't learned and understood the principles of being a good steward. There's a reason why in the story of the talents, which has to do with money, everybody doubled their money except for one person. And it wasn't because he had the least. Okay? He couldn't be trusted with more, which is why he was only given one. Everybody doubled. So if he took his one talent and just doubled it, he would have been considered a good servant. But he buried it. Okay? He was not a good steward. He didn't take any risk. He didn't invest. He didn't try. So all God expects you to do is take what you have and be a good steward of it and put it to work for you. Don't bury it and just expect it to happen. If you don't plan, you will fail. Unequivocally, 100% of the time. Get yourself a plan of action and start living it with discipline. Okay? Learn to tell yourself no. And that's going to be your biggest saving grace. Learn how to say no to yourself, because what you're doing is saying yes to having the lights on, the gas on, and the four walls of your home so you don't lose your home. What's more important to you? Starbucks or having a house?
Having a house.
You say that, but is your budget reflecting it? So what do you need to do to accomplish what is the biggest desire of your heart? The biggest desire of your heart is to have a house. So how do you make that happen? Are you an Olympic athlete, or are you swimming in the toddler pool? What does an Olympic athlete do? They get up at the crack of dawn, they go to bed late, they exercise 500 billion times a day, they gave up bonbons, okay, like chocolate. I live and breathe for chocolate. But an Olympic athlete doesn't bat an eye to their food being modified so that they can have a shot at winning the gold. We struggle with our finances because we don't have the mentality to be disciplined enough to protect our four walls and go for gold. What's the gold in your life? I want a house. So how do I achieve that? Getting Starbucks every day? Okay. Having a plan of action and working the plan? Yes. Okay. I'm not trying to be harsh, just throwing some things out there. What do you want more? If you say you want this, what's your plan to get there, and how well are you sticking to it? Okay? And we've had this conversation, and I have it with everyone that I give coaching advice to. I don't really care what your non-negotiables are and what your negotiables are. I'll help you work any plan you want. If you want Starbucks and you have zero desire to own a home, I don't care. I just want you to have some plan. And if Starbucks is your goal, I'm going to help you achieve that. It doesn't matter to me. But you need to know what's important to you. And most people that are failing in their finances have zero idea what's actually important in their life. But when they start looking at their finances, all of a sudden they see where they put the bulk of their priority. Like you did. McDonald's was the bulk of their priority.
It's so sad.
No, it's not sad. Well, and you know what, ladies, you guys should seriously be coming up to her and giving her a hug for her transparency, because most people wouldn't be this honest. They're doing it, and they'll sit there in the congregation and be like, "Oh, shocking!" And they're doing the exact same thing.
Yes.
They're doing the exact same thing, but they don't want anybody else to know that that's what they're doing.
And I did ask my husband how much I could share, and he was just like, whatever. So I have his permission.
But, be thankful that she's willing to be honest with what most people's story is, because when I do financial coaching, 99% of it is actually much worse than what her situation is. I've actually helped people save their marriages just by getting their finances in line. If you can get yourself on a budget and then you can help somebody else get on a budget, you've just now changed their family tree. And you've just saved their children and their grandchildren, and you've changed their destiny. And you freed up money for the kingdom of God. Because people that are living in that cycle, they really believe they're generous, good-hearted people, and, oh, let me get dinner for you, and oh, let me buy this for you. And they're just they're an emotional addiction to giving is literally keeping them in the poorhouse and keeping them from actually being a benefit to the kingdom of God. Okay? But we don't see it that way, because we look at, but if I'm generously giving, then I'm actually doing the work of the Father, but you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're stealing from God to do this. There can't be a blessing on that.
And to talk about blessings, Jason, my husband, is the first one in about, as far back as we can know, to actually be the first one to own his own home. His brothers don't own homes. His parents never owned their own home. Because we broke that and we said, we're from here on out. Whether we have kids or not have kids, it doesn't matter. What I'm learning, I'm going to share with others. So God will honor and break however the finances were before to now.
Just with the tithing, I wanted to add that I have the same mentality way before. I mean, I tithe now, but before I have a gift of generosity. I love giving, and so I used to always say, well, if I'm giving it to so and so and so, it's the same thing. At least I make sure that I'm giving it to the right people, because I don't know what they're going to do with the money. So that was my thing. It's like, okay, I really give it to me directly who I think they need, and at least I know it's going to be used in the proper way. And then when I started learning and reading in the Bible, I realized that, well, wait a minute, I'm still robbing God, because I'm not doing obedient. And then I realized that, yeah, that's two different things, completely two different things. And I'm glad that I did. So if anybody has that thought, I just wanted to share that.
And valid, and I'm going to piggyback on that. I have a giving budget. I love to give. It is really, I mean, it's just, my husband and I, we have a passion for orphans. So right now we are partnering with missionary friends of ours, and we send them money to build an orphanage. Our goal is that we will build this orphanage. We've already, we put in the foundation through money that we have given, but it's giving, not tithing. We are working towards getting these 25 orphans underneath a shelter so that they don't end up in prostitution or drug running.
Yeah.
Okay, to me, and again, there's no right or wrong, okay? But to me, I came to the point in my life where I'm like, Starbucks or having an orphan underneath a roof,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay? But that's my priority. And I don't want anybody to feel guilt or condemnation if that's not your priority, because Starbucks isn't wrong, and neither is putting an orphan underneath a roof. Have a line item is what I'm saying. My whole point in all of this is, where is your line item that accounts for the money where it's going? If you want to give money to the orphans, where are you accounting for it in your budget? Where is your line item? So I have a giving budget, I have Christmas, I have a vacation. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you must account for it. If you're spending money in that area, it must be accounted for on your budget. Does that make sense?
The only thing I wanted to clarify, because I do budget, and I do have my meat budget, my play budget. But in my play budget, I put everything that like if I'm gonna get a haircut or things like
And
that.
that's okay.
That's my play budget. I don't
It is.
separate that.
It should be. I mean, like, it's okay that you don't separate it, because you're not touching your bill money.
Yeah.
You can be as detail oriented or as loose as you want. I'm giving you your guidelines. I want bare minimum 2 buckets. I don't care if you say, here's my bill money of $1,000, I'm putting $1,000 in here and everything else is in this one. I don't care, because I've now just protected your home. But if you want to take in this second, if you want to take in this second budget and you want to have, like me, 25 different bank accounts because I'm a freak of nature like an accounting firm, then do it. You know, I literally do. I have like 20 some bank accounts, and each account has a label. Christmas fund, vacation fund, real estate taxes, insurance. Each one is its own bucket, because for me, I need a door on each account so that I don't accidentally take my real estate money and spend it on insurance, or take my insurance money and spend it on Christmas. So for me, I can't have just 2 buckets. Some people are highly disciplined and they won't commingle money, and that works. So don't feel like you have to do it my way. All I'm saying is, protect your bill money, get a plan of action, and put it in place, and figure out what your priorities are. Don't figure out what you think they should be based on my conversation. Just because I said I care about the orphans doesn't mean that you shouldn't care about animal rescue or about missionaries in Africa. You know, just because I support missionaries in Mexico. Figure out your own priorities.
Shouldn't we also have a savings?
Yes, ma'am.
Emergency.
Yes.
That was my question.
Yes, so your goal, if you do not already have it, is to get $1,000 in a bank account ASAP. Your next goal should be 1 month worth of income. The next goal, 2 months, 3 months. I want you to get yourself up to 1 year's worth of income in your emergency fund. So like right now, if my husband were to lose his job, we could maintain the finances of our current residence for 1 year and run all of it. And that's our bill money and our grocery money.
And also put it in a CD so it makes money.
Well, not your emergency fund. Because if your emergency fund should be money that you can grab immediately with no penalty.
Right.
So not the emergency fund. Long-term emergency fund, yeah. You can stagger those. I know people that do a revolving 30-day CD, so that way money comes available every 30 days. They stagger it where they have a 1 year, a 2 year, a 3 year, a 4 year, a 5 year. Long-term, when you get past 1 year. And I have a much higher requirement than most people. They say 6 months. But if you have a devastating emergency, you need at least 1 year to figure out, do I relocate? Do I stay here? How do we change things to navigate this current situation? This is a fact. You will have a major financial emergency every decade, period. And if you think back on your life, you're gonna see that that's true. And I'm not talking about the washer and the dishwasher breaking. I'm talking about a major financial emergency. So plan for it, because if you plan for it, it's not an emergency. We also have a bucket for home maintenance. So when my washer goes, it's not an emergency. We lost our dishwasher. Was it our dishwasher and our washer, or
Yes.
was it dishwasher and stove? I forget. It was
It
like,
was the dishwasher and washer.
yeah.
Cause you,
Because I'm like, literally in 1 week, my dishwasher and my washing machine went, and I was inconvenienced. It wasn't an emergency. For most people, that would be an emergency. They would be going to the laundromat, they would be washing dishes, and me, I'm like, I gotta save money again. Because I had a plan. The money was there, because I had a home maintenance bucket.
and it'll take time to get there.
Yeah,
I'm not there yet.
absolutely.
I've only got maybe a month of an emergency if something were to happen. That's where I am right now.
Yeah, because she's paying down debt. That's another thing. While you're paying down debt, you should also be saving money, because you're still going to have an emergency. Your emergencies are not going to sit there and go, aw, Darla is working on getting rid of her credit card.
I'll wait.
We're going to wait and give her a break. No. So you still need to save money.
When the oven
and
goes
plan
out
for
right before
emergencies.
Thanksgiving.
And thank you, because I did forget to go there.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen. When the oven goes out before Thanksgiving,
Right,
you know, it was like, oh,
Or Thanksgiving Day.
right.
you know, or yeah, you're calling a plumber because your stuff backs up on Christmas Day. This was our first year in the house,
Right.
and we're just by, you know, so you're in that, but like she said, it was annoying, it was inconvenient, but
It was
I
an
wasn't
emergency.
like, great, now which credit card are we gonna have to pull back out that we've paid off? I didn't have to do that.
Right. And that's why you do $1,000. Get $1,000. I don't care if it takes you 3 years to save that amount of money. Get $1,000, because $1,000 is going to cover almost every major appliance in your home. It will also cover you for a couple of weeks of a paycheck if there's a short-term emergency. Does this make sense? Okay, does anybody have any questions or something that I can clarify a little bit better? Because I know I kind of threw a lot out there in very small portions.
Conflict.
Yes.
How do you resolve conflict when you have a conflict between husband and wife about funds?
Oh, good question.
Isn't that a good question?
Yes.
It comes up a lot.
It does. It comes up in every single counseling session.
Absolutely.
And what I tell them is, it is about the finances, not about the person. Because by the time they're sitting in chairs across from me, the knives are out and they're using them and they're cutting deep, okay? So my first goal is to de-escalate the situation and say, it's not about them, because they'll start saying, you're a jerk because you did this. You're a brat because you did this. Do you see how they're putting labels? Mm-hmm. And you know that it's true, and you know that they do that. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. No, they're not a brat. No, they're not a jerk. What are you upset about? Well, he took this out of the account, and she blew money on this. Then say that. And that's where I start with the conflict resolution, is getting them to separate qualifying their anger and calling names and creating friction that doesn't need to be there, and change it to, it's about this line item on the budget. All right, that's the starting point. And then I say, okay, so he is making a statement that golf is of the utmost importance to him, and she's making a statement that visiting her mom is of the utmost importance to her, and both of those things are important and valid. They're both going on there.
It's validating the other person's priority.
Yes.
My husband loves guitars. To me, I don't understand it.
You don't
You
have
have 5. Why do you need more? And
It
that's,
doesn't matter.
But I had to come to the point and realize, but that's his priority.
And it's
Just
okay.
like me, I want to go to a Starbucks and sit in a chair and have someone massage my feet. That is a priority to me. I need that alone time where I talk to no one, put my earbuds in, let the little Vietnamese lady just yabber away to her little Vietnamese friend next to her, and I can sit there with my frappe and get my feet done. That's a priority to me. My husband's like, you've got to be kidding. But we had to talk it through, and I had to understand that when I see 7 guitars in the grocery cart on Amazon because he's looking, but see, the thing is, he's just looking. But I saw that the very first time, and I was like, and my first reaction in conflict, you're not getting all those, right? And I literally was standing there looking at him like this. So if I'm looking at you like this and I'm telling you, of course you're gonna, but I had to step back and be like,
And that's when I said to her, why can't he have that as a priority?
and that's, so you have
Do
to
you see what I mean?
realize,
Ask that question. If you're helping somebody or
What
there's a
is your
conflict,
priority?
is why can't they have that as a priority, and why do you think you need to control everything?
Right.
so
Because that's what you're doing. You're saying your priority is more important than their priority, and they're crap and you're not. That's essentially what you're saying. Not to be ignorant, sorry for the 4-letter word. But everybody's priority is important. Everybody. And I don't care if you don't understand it. Validate it and put it as a line item on there. They might not get as much money as they want, but it needs to be a line item that's validated. Okay? And when you start doing that, you feel like you lose control, but you're actually empowering the unity of your marriage. Because now, what does it say? Again, we talked about this last night. 1 is 1,000 and 2 is 10,000. Satan's biggest goal is for a husband and wife to not be in unity and to keep you separated, which is why finances is one of the biggest tools. So if you can get yourself in unity with your spouse on the finances, you're going to be a powerful force.
in a cord of 3 strands, it says in Ecclesiastes, it's not easily broken. So if you are on the same page that, honey, Starbucks and a pedicure are my priorities. Well, babe, guess what? Guitars are mine. Fine. Let's put line items. Let's save so you can get yours and I can get mine. And now together we are, okay, God, you help us. So now we have just unified this cord. We are together and communicate. It frustrates me to see that many guitars in the cart. I'm like, can you just move them to maybe later down at the bottom? But it's finding that compromise. I'm like, I don't mind that you look at them, but it stresses me out.
Right. Do you see communication that she was not doing before? Now, if you have a spouse that you're not on the same page with, if you start by saying, could you please not call me a brat? Can you just tell me what you're upset about? Can you please tell me what's on your heart that is important? You can start asking those questions and validating them and say, I want you to have those things because I do love you. Finances should always be done by both parties. If you have full control of the finances, you're really screwing your household. Okay? So
you start becoming, it's what's mine.
yeah. But you're not also empowering your husband to take responsibility for it. They have no knowledge because they don't have their hands in it. Now that doesn't mean you're not the one, like in Darla's case, she's the one in charge of the buckets to work the plan. But they came up with the plan together. We have several meetings, my husband and I, because again, spreadsheets are sexy to me. We meet once a year and have a meeting of the minds, the CEO and the CFO. That's what we call it. The State of the Union. And we do sexy spreadsheets for our year. And we plan our money for the year. So we have our major plan once a year, and then we kind of check in every couple of months of how's the plan going. But here's the scenario. My dad is very, very ill. So I have started to pick up some of the slack, and they live an hour and 15 minutes away from me. So just driving there is almost a 3-hour commitment. Well, things started to slip on my end, and I said, hey babe, I need you to pick it up. Because he has been working this plan with me, and I've had him in the finances for 6 years, he was able to seamlessly step in and work the plan because I can't carry the responsibility. Okay, what happens if you get hit by a bus and now you're in the hospital? Can your husband take care of the finances? Do you trust him enough to take care of the finances? There's a lot that don't. Husbands or wives. There's husbands that take care of the finance that don't trust their wives because they're a free spirit and spend every dime that they can. You know, that's wrong.
Yep.
They have no responsibility. And there's men on the other side. So what I always recommend is to get you into unity is both of you need to be working the finances together. Okay? Does that kind of give you some pointers to help with conflict resolution? Do you want more pointers, or is that a good starting point?
Starting point. Sometimes it's you know, how do you fix that? They want something that you don't have the money for.
So if they have something that you don't have money for, you still need to validate it by putting a line item, even if all you're doing is putting $5 in at a paycheck. They need to have that line item because that line item validates them and validates the need that they have, even if you don't understand it. And that's hard because actually you and I had this conversation and you kind of touched on it. She's like, we're not putting guitars on there. And it's like, yeah, you are. Why?
I'm sorry, I'm still
No,
this
but
part in it,
again-
and I'm like, I still don't understand it.
And I said,
And
I don't really care that you don't understand it. You're basically telling your husband that his heart is invalid. His heart has no validation.
And we would have arguments in Costco a month ago because he wanted the raisin bread. And I'm like, but a raisin bread is a luxury. That's not something we need. Why are you always, and we're in the middle of Costco on a Saturday. And he's like, why are you always telling me no? And I'm like, why can you not stick? And this is what's happening. And I'm like, and I looked at him. I mean, we got about 2 minutes in and we looked at each other and he goes, this is really stupid. And I was like, this is really stupid. And he's like, can we take out the peanut butter? And can we? He realized, I want this and I'm willing to sacrifice that. And it was that moment of realizing, what can we do? This then became a priority to him. And I had to validate, okay, you really want this, then yes. Because it's still in the grocery bucket. So we had to stay within this amount of money. But what were you willing? It's validating, again, I don't like raisins. Why do you need raisin bread?
Right.
But it's saying this is something you enjoy. And you're wanting a taste of luxury for a moment, and you're tired of the oat nut, so can we put back the oat? You know, it's finding that this was it was taking that moment of looking at each other and being like, this is really stupid that we're arguing over this.
It's how can I love you enough to validate your wants and needs?
Yes.
You know, it comes back to
And it may take sacrifice on your end.
that unselfish love. Because we all recognize our own needs and wants as the most important. You know, for me, like, gift giving, it is a huge priority, but my gift giving is different than how most people consider it. Most people consider it how, like, Martha had all of the bags and those types of gift giving. That's literally the last love language I own. And I have to force myself to think about those types of gifts because it's not a priority to me. When you have that situation where you have a gift giver and a non-gift giver that are in a household, it's highly challenging. And both have got to come here. The best way of doing it is just have a conversation, say, you know, hey, I've been really thinking about this, and I recognize that this item that you've been talking about is really important to you, and that I haven't been honoring your heart in our financial discussions. and I know that we're maybe struggling and we haven't been able to balance our budget, and I would really like us to work together on this. So how can we talk about this, and I can validate your heart, and we can plan for that. It might take us 10 years to get you what you want, but how can we plan for this so that I can honor you as my husband? Because we're all ladies in here. You know, how can I honor you as my husband and show you that I love you by giving you this item? You know?
Learning the love language.
But there are people that literally are crack addicts when it comes to spending. You know? And I've dealt with that. I mean, I had this one woman that she would literally take money from the bill. She was addicted to spending money. She was a crack addict with the money. And they had given me permission to be in their finances, and I was like, your checkbook doesn't balance. I mean, we had gotten to the point where it wasn't even just normal financial coaching. I was literally pulling up their bank statement, and I was looking at their bank statement with them because they were bleeding out. She was withdrawing money and causing overdrafts because she was that addicted to spending. And she was like, well, I don't know where the money went. And I'm like, you do realize I worked for a financial institution. I know how to figure this out. And I would pull up the withdrawal slip and say, is this your signature? Oh yeah. Well, what did you spend that money on? I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I mean, she was literally a crack addict spending money. And at that point, we had to have the conversation because she was very non-compliant. And we had to have the conversation of, you're completely unwilling to make any changes. You're going to sink your house. You are going to end up either foreclosed, bankrupt. You're going to end up in such huge financial straits if you keep this up. You are sinking your house. That happens sometimes. If you have somebody that's in that situation, unfortunately, your only goal at that point is to separate finances and try and just manage to not sink your own ship. And that also means your marriage is in very dire straits, because if they can't get over their addiction to spending because they love you and they love themselves, if they can't get over that addiction, you have a major marriage issue. But that usually is the rarity, and I've only run across that very, very few times. Most people, when you sit down and you have a conversation and the parties open up, and usually one person has an epiphany, and even if they're not the one wrong, they say, hey, I realize I'm not validating you. How can we work on this together? Even if they're not the one wrong, it usually de-escalates the situation. It's the same in a friendship. You don't have to be the one that's wrong to say, hey, I'm sorry, right? We believe that in our friendships, and we believe that as Christians to other people that are in our churches. Why don't we practice that in our marriages? Hey, I understand this really hurt your feelings, and I struggle with this, but I want to say I'm sorry for how maybe we negotiated that, and for my part I had, because I understand that maybe I wasn't validating your heart and you didn't feel heard. It doesn't mean that it has to necessarily, like, you did hear them, you don't agree, but how it's your marriage, so how are you going to fix this? You have to find a place where your expectations can come together, because you're really just having a conflict of expectations. Does that make sense? So it's very difficult, and yes, there's crack addict spenders out there. I'm fully acknowledging that, and they are unbelievably difficult to deal with. If they are unwilling and non-compliant, even with financial coaching, at that point, it's going to be very difficult to save the marriage. And the first priority is marriage counseling, and getting that person and the two spouses to love each other enough to actually communicate and to validate and not be selfish. Because if you can't get through the marriage counseling aspect, the finances are kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay. So, any other questions? Because I think we're way beyond time.
What is about I understand all you're saying, but when it gets to the bookkeeping part and how do you you keep talking about line items, I see those numbers make me crazy in a sheet of paper that's got all these
Me
lines.
too.
Okay.
That's why I do it my way. So most credit
We
unions.
have two ways of,
Yes. So most credit unions will allow you to have multiple accounts all in the same member number. So your member number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have sub account 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
So
6,
you
7.
can put money in different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we have three
Oh
of
my
them.
gosh.
Yeah.
We have
But
three
some
separate
some
accounts.
credit unions only allow so many of those.
That's correct. And you can have multiple member numbers. So like we have a member number underneath myself first and then another one with my husband first. So that I can have my
Your buckets.
buckets.
Oh.
So what happens is the paycheck comes in and then the money just goes, it just goes into all the different accounts. I don't touch it.
Now that's what
But
she
you
had to do.
put it in. You
No, I
decide
set it
then.
up automatically. So you can do it automatically. Either your credit union will do it for you, or you could do it through your online banking, or you can do it manually. But manually is a lot more cumbersome. I just literally every time we sit down and have a State of the Union, we adjust our buckets of how much money is going into each bank account.
You put
and then-
money into the account and then it automatically goes to. Oh
Yes,
my
ma'am.
gosh.
Yep.
Now my bank, I have two different banks. We have our Bank of America bank, and then we have a credit union. So our Bank of America bank is where our bills go. And that's all set up and ready to go. So his paycheck, I logged in and we had to figure out how much of his paycheck, because his paycheck depends on how many hours. He gets paid hourly. So I don't know how much his paycheck's gonna be every 2 weeks. I have a ballpark, but was he sick? Did he work overtime? So figuring that out does take a little bit of math, but you can figure it out.
But the bill money never changes, and that amount going into the bill account never changes.
Exactly. So figuring that part out was fine. Now the buckets, but those are negotiable. So
Right.
maybe this month he called in sick, or maybe we had to go take his mom somewhere, so maybe he didn't get as many. So maybe his guitar fund or my pedicure fund only gets $1 instead of $5. But that's okay, because those are negotiables, and I don't
Yep.
need to get a pedicure every 6 weeks. I get one twice a year now, and that was my choice. But you see how no matter what his paycheck was, this never changed.
Right, the
And-
negotiable, the non-negotiables never changes.
But my
It's
credit
the
union-
negotiables that does.
My credit union doesn't let me have, mine doesn't let me have that many sub accounts and all
How
that.
many can you have?
It
I can
depends.
have, it depends.
It depends on
It
the
depends
bank.
on the bank.
But yours, you have how many?
Mine has 2.
Two, okay.
I
I
only
literally have like 26, 25, 26
And I
bank
have
accounts.
2. So in that
But
2,
because I'm literally, I was in finance for 17 years, and for me, having this separate account, I'm like you, looking at a spreadsheet and just having, okay, so I have $1,000 in the bank account, but on my spreadsheet, $50 is for this, and $30 is for this, and $20 is for this, I would spend it.
Yes.
I would spend it. So for
But-
me, I have to
but
have
for
the
people who
separate
can't
accounts.
have that option,
Right.
if your credit union doesn't have this option,
Right.
and you're looking for another way, talk to your credit
Do an
union.
envelope. Get an
Well, that's
envelope.
what we
Do
do
envelopes at home. I mean, go old school.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, but if your credit union doesn't, and you only have 2, and a spreadsheet like me, like you, makes me batty,
Right.
I have a savings that I know every penny that's in that savings is for the big items, his guitar fund, that's like a play money. Then in the other checking account, that is where I have, okay, out of this amount of money is the groceries. Out of this amount of money is the haircuts. Out of this amount of money is when we want to go to the movies. Out of this. So if you have it, the spreadsheet, instead of it being 26 items,
Yeah.
because I have 2 accounts, because that's all they let me have, I'm only looking at maybe 10 things instead of 25. So that's what I'm saying. If you can't do this, and you don't want to do an envelope, because if I see an envelope in my money,
You're gonna spend
if he has money in his wallet, he's going to spend it, because we know that about ourselves.
Right.
I have it in a checking and a savings, but then I know, okay, when we're going to the store and we're going to Costco, I sit there, I'm that person in Costco with this piece of paper. Okay, toilet paper, that's $20. Okay, babe, we're like $10 away from our limit, so what's
But do you see how both of us have a plan? Neither one is wrong, neither one is right. It's a plan. The
Right.
plan is right.
See,
The
that's
plan
what works
is
for
right.
us is the envelope system.
Yeah.
It's like he gets paid every week. So every week we put money into the checking account. Okay, that's rent, that's credit cards, that's whatever.
Exactly,
And then
perfect.
we take out cash, say we need $500 for the month, we split it up, food, pets, entertainment,
Got it.
whatever.
But now you can start doing
Yeah.
more envelopes and every paycheck be more intentional of the other items that you have, like Christmas club and vacation and all those other things. And now you know, no withdrawals on the
Yeah.
bill account.
Yeah.
You know, because that should be a lean
Everything
machine.
is automated anyway, so it comes out. So we
That's
don't
correct.
Have to worry about the
There's
total.
one thing that I forgot to say for the negotiable items. Gas for your car is negotiable. Like that's not a bill because if you have it in your bill account, then you're actually withdrawing from your bill account. So it needs to be in one of the it needs to be in the play money account.
You can
so
carpool with a friend from
Right.
from work.
you
you
can,
can
find
walk.
another way.
You can ride a bike. You can take public transit.
So gas for the car needs to be in your play money account.
What if my husband doesn't work locally, he's private contracting, he works all over the Northwest?
Driving semi.
No,
No?
he's a millwright,
Okay.
but he has to travel in his own vehicle.
Okay, but
I do as well.
he's getting reimbursed for expenses, right? Or is that
No, he gets per diem, which is.
right? He gets per diem, so he's getting reimbursed for it. So you're getting a check that reimburses it. So again, that should be in the play money account because he's going to get a check for that to
That covers
reimburse
that.
him. That covers it.
Yep.
Not bill. It is not a bill. I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna suggest what I do. I have a spreadsheet. Most of the computers, if they have a computer, they have already a spreadsheet in there for either business or personal, and that's what I do. But most of my non-negotiable items are paid automatically. I'm setting them out automatically, so I don't have to deal with that. And that's just, and savings too, that's done automatically, certain things.
Right, and that's exactly what we were just saying. Is
Yeah.
have the automatics. But again, it's having the two it's separating the accounts. You should not ever have any withdrawals from that bill account. Your bill account is only your bills.
But
by-
there's a spreadsheet already set up on the system, that's what
Yeah,
she said.
yeah.
That it's already set
Yeah,
up for
Excel has a
all the
million different
expenses and
varieties.
everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if spreadsheets drive you batty, envelope system, having other bank accounts, there's so many varieties of doing this. You have options. So we want to release you because I know that this is a lot of information and we've gone over. So thank you for your grace. We appreciate that. For those that do have budgets, and this might have just been droning on. But if those that want to talk more about it, please come to either one of us and we can help, okay? Thank you.